Transportation Committee to order. Can we have the roll call, please? Let's try that again. Should I try again? It's 5:30, so I'll call this meeting of the Transportation and Circulation Committee to order. May we have the roll call, please?
Committee Member Blackerby.
Here.
Burnham.
Here.
France. Horn.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Chair Bosch.
Here. Okay. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
All right. Then we will move on to public comment. Is there any public comment on items that are not on our agenda this evening? Seeing none, we will move on to the consent calendar and approve the minutes from the February 28th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
No.
Okay.
I have a comment. I was waiting for you to recognize me.
Oh,
sorry.
Sorry.
I have a correction or a revision or something, whatever, on page 5. It's the last page, and I thought it wasn't quite clear. It says in the first paragraph, the last sentence, after the changes in that corridor, the speed survey will be done again. And if there's a change, etc. I'm not clear whether it should say after the changes in that corridor, the survey was done or will be in the future. I can't tell if it was done before or after the changes in the takeover by the city.
Oh.
And this exact same thing happens in the in the third paragraph, the last sentence. Mr. Bailey said that the city did a speed survey and measured speeds were similar to previous Caltrans survey. I can't tell if that was before or after the improvements.
After.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'd like to
That
see
survey
that.
would have been done after the improvements were done.
Thank you. Okay, could we add that?
Okay. I see nods over there, so.
Thank you.
So I would move for approval with those changes.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from February 26th. Do all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, on to reports. We have the MTD reports for the second quarter of 2015 and the months of November, December, January, and February.
Okay, committee members, this is an informational item presented before you. If you have any questions regarding the report, we're happy to answer them.
No questions?
And this is just an informational item, so I don't think we need to do anything about it. If there are no other questions, we just move on to the next item, which is the North Lacumba Road Sidewalk and Pedestrian Improvement Project.
Okay, who's presenting? Okay, I'm going to introduce Jessica Grant, project planner, and Eric. I forgot your last name, Eric. It's Goodall. So they're going to present this project to you. It's a project that is funded with a Measure A grant that we got from SBCAG, and we have some designs that the engineering has come up with that they want to discuss with the committee.
All right. Good evening, Chair Bosch and Commission members. Here to talk about the North Lacumba Sidewalk and Pedestrian Improvement Project. And really tonight is just to have a discussion and receive feedback from you in regards to how this project complies with the pedestrian master plan and where it might differ, and to provide some options tonight that Eric Goodall from our engineering division will bring you through. Just to take a step back, what is this project all about? How did it come to happen? This it is a sidewalk infill project between essentially La Cumbre and Villa Lucero, which is one block off of La Cumbre and State, and it would continue about a third of a mile to La Cumbre Hills Lane. And we received a Measure A grant from the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments back in 2013. And we have till about June of 2016 to construct the sidewalk. So since that time, we've started conceptual design and had this corridor studied. And then the big picture is to infill all the remaining sidewalk all the way. So we have continuous sidewalk from State La Cumbre to Foothill and La Cumbre Road. And hopefully trying to receive other grant opportunities for the rest of the sections. As far as this is a safe routes to school corridor, this particular stretch of road feeds into 4 schools. Off of La Cumbre, along La Colina is Hope Elementary School. A little bit further down is a private school, Bishop Diego. And there's also La Colina Junior High. That's access off of Foothill, but there's a lot of neighborhood connections from La Cumbre Road. And also on Hope Avenue is Monte Vista Elementary. But again, some of the students would use La Cumbre Road as a passage. So as far as this is a very high priority corridor to have sidewalk, and with the school safety assessments that we've had with those schools, that's why it's risen to the top of our sidewalk infill priority list. So, and then as far as, what do we have out here in terms of sidewalk? We did a sidewalk analysis to see, what's out there right now. And the majority of the area, and these are the color-coded maps, and we'll refer to them as we move through the presentation, but the majority of the sidewalk in this area is a 6-foot sidewalk with just the curved face. As far as having areas where we have the planter adjacent to the curb, and then sidewalk, there are some areas, but it's pretty minimal, and it's reflected in the green color. But there are little splashes between Villa Lucero and Fairfax Road on the east side, and then on the west side between Herald Avenue and Pueblo Avenue. And so what does the pedestrian master plan say? This is a 60-foot 60-foot right-of-way, and dealing with that, we have, let's see if, we'll probably not get the image up here. But what's recommended is essentially a 4-foot furnishing zone, which is the planter area, and then with a 6-foot sidewalk. As far as what we have in that 60 feet right now is we have 12-foot travel lanes and then 8 feet of parking on both sides. So essentially what's left over on both sides of the street, we're working with 10 feet. And with that, I will hand it off to Eric, and then we'll go through the options that we are contemplating as we move forward with design.
So like Jessica said, in the locations where we have any existing parkway, because there's only 10 feet of right-of-way, we only have 5-foot strips of sidewalk, which is the minimum. Any new improvements, if we go with the city standard, there are a number of conflicts along the corridor. And that's why we're recommending going with a 6-foot curb face sidewalk to match the existing of what's out there and avoid a large number of those conflicts all along the corridor. If we go to Exhibit 1, and this is between Maricopa Drive and Kamea Lane on the east side of the road. If we go and put the city standard in, we'll get a 4-foot parkway with 5 feet of sidewalk. And there are 5 oak trees along that length on the east side of the road that would be conflicting with the sidewalk and would have to be removed. We don't want to do that. So we'd like to go with a 6-foot curb face sidewalk, which would preserve all of the trees and reduce the cost for the area. It would also match the existing sidewalk on the south end and tie into the existing sidewalk on the north end that goes from 6-foot sidewalk into a 5-foot walk with 4 feet of parkway. In Exhibit 2, we are looking at the intersection at La Colina Road going north. At this intersection, there's an existing ADA-compliant ramp on the northwest side of the intersection. We're looking at installing a new ramp on the east side where there currently is no sidewalk. In addition to the ramp, we're looking at putting in rapid flashing beacons on either side of the intersection. On the east side, we're going to attach the rapid flashing beacons to a street light to improve the safety in there.
Would you please point and touch what you're talking about?
Yes, so the rapid flashing beacons are these, and the street light is on the east side, right next to the ramp. As you can see in option 2, we have the city standard sidewalk shown. The positive about doing city standard in this section is we preserve one street tree. The negative is that it's a very steep area between the back of right-of-way and the front of curb is about a 3-foot drop. So if we put the sidewalk at the back of, as far back as we can, to meet the city standard, we're going to need about a 3-foot retaining wall, which is very undesirable and doesn't create a very inviting corridor for people to walk through. So if we go with the 6-foot walk, we possibly might need some back curb or small retaining walls no more than a foot in height. And if we go up the street to Exhibit 3, this is just north of the previous section. On the plan, it's much flatter of an area, but the conflicts in this section are a fence, which you can see the city standard walk conflicts with that fence. The fence is about 8 feet from the curb, so it would have to be moved. There's also a wall next to a driveway up the street, and it is the face of the wall is 6 feet back from the back of the curb. So if we went with the city standard, both of those would have to move. If we go with a 6-foot walk, both of those are not obstructions to the project and don't have to have any relocation. And if we go up the street to Exhibit 4, this is just up the street, and this wall here is the continuation of the wall on the other sheet. Right across the driveway, there's another wall, and it's at the same distance back from walk as the previous wall. So again, if we put in the city standard sidewalk, both of those walls are conflicting and would have to be moved. With the 6-foot walk, again, we get to, we don't have any conflict with those walls. At this location, there's also a tree that has some shrubs around it. If we put in the city standard of the 4-foot and 4-foot parkway, 5-foot walk, that tree ends up being somewhere in the middle of the walk and has to be removed. if we put in the 6-foot walk, that tree can actually be preserved. There's a fence just up the street, which is shown in yellow here. With either option, either the city standard or a 6-foot walk, it's slightly conflicting, but it's only about a foot. It would only have to move about a foot to be behind the walk if we go with a 6-foot sidewalk. And then we'll go to Exhibit 5. And starting at the bottom, at the south end of the street, if we stick with the city standard and go up the street, there are very few conflicts. There's a residences tree that would have to be relocated. But this is also a very steep area. In this area, the embankment slopes away from the road. So we would have to build up a retaining wall beneath the sidewalk at the back of the walk. Probably about 2 feet of retaining wall. If we go with a 6-foot walk, we may have to do a little bit of grading to bring that area up to grade, but it will require a significantly smaller wall, if a wall at all. Further up the street, right across Sunset, there was a newly constructed masonry wall, which you can see in photo 3. It runs about 118 feet along the property, and it is 4.5 feet from the back of the side, or the back of curb to the wall, which either option we go with, it's going to be a conflict. And we can't fit our standard sidewalk section, our minimum of 5 feet, next to the wall. In this case, we would still recommend going with a 6-foot curved face sidewalk because, again, behind the wall, there's a significant slope, downslope, and we would have to raise it up and fill that whole area in. And that's the extent of the project.
Is that the end of the report? Pretty much.
Yes, this, just in short, this isn't an easy sidewalk project. Most of the remaining sidewalk infill pieces have remained not filled because they have issues, and this one clearly has topography issues and trees and all of that, and it's just trying to. We still want to proceed with the goal of having a sidewalk. How that looks like compared with the pedestrian master plan vision may differ in this particular case, and this is a little bit more unique, which is why we're bringing it for your feedback tonight. So, like I said, staff is leaning towards more the option 1 options, but we want to hear your feedback tonight.
Okay. Anybody?
Madam Chair,
Yep.
I'll start off. I've got basically a 3-part question. First of all, Jessica and Eric, can you clarify for me, again, the city standard includes Parkway, or I'm not sure what is the city standard?
The city standard is a 4-foot parkway and 6-foot wide sidewalk.
Sidewalk, okay. And then, so that's option 1 that you're talking about in your exhibits?
So option 1 in our exhibits does not have a parkway except for a couple of sections in our exhibit 3 section. We're recommending to differ from the pedestrian master plan guidelines and move for a curb face sidewalk.
And that's the 6-foot?
Yes, 6 foot.
Sidewalk.
Yes.
And that's what you're recommending as the main option for most of the infill that we're talking about?
Correct.
Okay. My second question is, in one of the first exhibits you mentioned 2 oak trees that would have to be removed if you went with the city standard. Am I correct?
Yeah, it was actually 5 oak trees, but yes.
5 oak trees.
Yes.
Okay, now my question is what is the city ordinance or guideline for when you have a regular 6-foot sidewalk that goes from the curbing to the inner boundary? Where is there a guideline for where trees are positioned? Because I notice a real inconsistency throughout the city as far as where trees are located, either close to the curbing, in tree wells, which seems to be most of downtown, but on other streets on the Mesa and other areas, there are trees that are right in the middle of the sidewalk, and you have to bob and weave in and out around these trees to walk on that sidewalk. Is there any city guideline prescribing where these trees should be?
Do you know any guidelines?
There's guidelines for if we were planting new vegetation. As far as the trees that we're discussing along this corridor are already existing trees. Typically is to avoid the trees when we can when we're designing a sidewalk.
And these particular trees are from about 8 feet to 10 feet behind the curb. So they would be completely out of this whole sidewalk profile if we went with that 6-foot walk.
Are there any that cut into the easement of the sidewalk itself?
There's one tree that we would make a small cut to go around.
And we work with our city arborists for construction details for that.
Okay, I do have more questions regarding that whole issue, but I think it should be saved for maybe discussions with you folks out of this committee. So
Okay.
I'm done.
Are there any other comments from the committee at this point?
May have comments, but
Okay. Questions?
Question.
Questions.
I'm having a real hard time following this. It was a lot of information pretty fast. I'm looking at this, and on this small map, this is labeled Exhibit 2 with Sunset Drive and Stacy Lane, and over here it's called Exhibit 5. And and is this upper map the top here? Does it continue down here? Is that kind of if I was to lay it out that way? Because I just want to be responsible in looking at your plans, and I just not seeing where everything matches up.
So the conflict there is the smaller handout was created with different exhibits.
Okay, well then I will. Okay, ignore the exhibit numbers. Thank you.
Confusion.
And so, did you start at Villa Lucero and move all the way up to Pueblo Avenue?
We started between Maricopa Drive and Kamea Lane.
Okay.
And on the larger plan,
The ones we were flying through.
Yes.
Okay. This one. Okay, let's look at this. Yeah, that's fine. So forget this.
yes.
Okay, thank you. So these exhibits, okay, that makes it much easier. I kept trying to anchor myself as to where you were talking. And so what about the bottom part of this map?
The lower half is just the continuation north on the road, and it's primarily within county, and any sidewalk that is missing in that section, we're going to apply for future funding to do.
Okay, great. That helps a lot. Thank you.
Just on logistics, I keep hearing you say it's between Maricopa and Lacumba Hills. But what is all this stuff that's on the outside of that? Is that like future project also? That goes to down Lacumba Road toward Villa Lucero and beyond.
So this map represents the whole corridor between essentially at State Lacumbre going to Lacumbre and Foothill. So the solid color lines on the map represent existing sidewalk. And then the hatched lines represent the areas that we are slated for infill.
Okay, I get it now. Thank you.
Okay, well, we do have a public comment slip, so let's go ahead and do that. Ms. Miles?
My name is Jody Miles. I live at 381 North La Cumbre, and we have a mail delivery, and the truck just stops out in front. And I'm wondering, we've been responsible for our own mailboxes, and sometimes they're in great shape, sometimes they're not. And I'm wondering about how this will affect that. Both the mail delivery and the location of the mailboxes.
We'll ask staff to respond to that question, I guess. Do we have any other public comment? Right. I guess I'll close public comment and we'll bring it back to the committee. And do you have a response to the mailbox question?
We do have a general response that we need to work that detail out as we move forward in design.
More discussion from the committee? Susan?
I'm stunned at how complicated this is, and just wondering, do you have an idea what you're going to do with those walls that are impinging on the area you want to build sidewalk on?
Chair Bosch and Committee Member Horn. Have to remember what, am I at a council meeting, commission meeting? And again, it's a dialogue. The owners that have right-of-way constraints have been notified, and it's a continuous dialogue that we need to have as we move forward in design. And again, it depends on which options that we do as to amount of properties that would be affected for removing the wall and or fences. The biggest encroachment was shown on Exhibit 5 between Sunset Drive and La Cumbre Hills Lane.
Is that really long wall?
That
Right.
new wall?
160 miles. When an owner has right-of-way constraints, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Essentially, a private property owner is not allowed to build in a city or county right-of-way without permission. And depending upon where you're at in the city proper, there's regulations for fences and walls in the city, and there's regulations for fences and walls in the county. And a lot of the ones located where that happens to be an area in the county, and if it was built on their private property, it wouldn't require a permit. But in this case, it was built in the city right-of-way, which would have, at minimum, required an encroachment permit from the city. We do not have a record of that encroachment permit, and that's what we need to have the dialogue with that property owner.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Hillary?
So I'm so glad that we're working on this project, and when it got funded, I was going, oh, this is going to be interesting, because having traversed that area many times, I know it's quite a patchwork of things. So it seems to me, I mean, with the two, kind of the choice we have in front of us, it seems like with a 5-foot sidewalk, 4-foot parkway versus the, just the sidewalk. To me, in pedestrian mode, the wider the sidewalk, the better. And at this point, a parkway's nice, but I would say, the most important part of the project and kind of the whole reason is so that people can get through there, can walk through there. I would also say, too, it would probably be an added benefit of it to not put more parkway in the city and not plant more vegetation in the city and not, put something that is going to cost us water down the road. And I don't know, maybe all that was going to go in it was DG, but who knows? But the point is, although parkways are generally nice, they're definitely not necessary. And I think space to walk, space with a stroller, space where currently down that road you got to walk single file or maybe sideways to get down some of those areas. And I think for the residents, it would be a huge benefit to be able to go through like you can in most of the city on the sidewalk. And I just think the parkway in this case is not super necessary, and is kind of, although obviously it's in our master plan, I think it's good to take a fresh look at what we do as far as parkways or planting new things now. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I think going for the wider sidewalk and veering away from the city standard in this, special case, I think is appropriate.
I'll go ahead and give my 2 cents then. In general, I do agree that wider sidewalks are preferable, although I do like parkways. And one advantage of the parkway and sidewalk configuration that we have in the pedestrian master plan is that then in the situation where you want to put in a bus shelter, there's adequate space to do so. With these 6-foot sidewalks, there will be no possibility of ever putting bus shelters, at least the current city design of bus shelter, in this corridor. There aren't that many bus stops along there, so that may not be a big deal. I definitely also see the advantage of preserving oak trees, or trees. I don't know if you said they were oaks, but and I suppose we still have the right-of-way, even though we're not claiming it at this time, right? So if down the road we did want to use a wider section of it, we could. Okay. In that case, I also would tend to support staff's recommendation for the 6-foot sidewalks adjacent to the curb with no parkway for most of these stretches. Although one other question I had is about the transitions between the new sidewalk and the existing sidewalks, and whether that's going to create a little bit of a meandering course, and how information about that is conveyed to people who can't see.
So for any location where we're tying into the existing, we'll make a smooth transition, a smooth curve from the 6-foot walk into the 4-foot parkway with the 5-foot walk. And we'll, make a small reduction in width as you travel through the curve into the existing. So it shouldn't create any hazards for people who are visually impaired in there.
Might just be a surprise, but I would be interested in Bob's opinion on that.
Madam Chair, I do have a question on adding on to your question. First of all, how much existing parkway is there on La Cumbre, and on which side is it more prevalent?
Currently on the east side, there is approximately 100 feet of sidewalk that has parkway.
And where is that located?
And that's located just north of the southernmost section of missing sidewalk, between Maricopa Drive and Kamea Lane. One of the constraints going into that section is there's a culvert right where that section of sidewalk ends, and the back wall for the culvert is slightly over 6 feet from the roadway. So that's a constraint there. On the west side, north, it's the only sections that have any existing parkway are on the north end between Harold Avenue and Pueblo Avenue. And the combined length of those is around 150 feet.
So we're talking about a fairly small percentage.
Yes.
And the overall distance and footage of sidewalk on both sides, we're talking about a relatively small portion that is actual parkway. So the infill and the transitioning that Cynthia was talking about sounds like it won't be a major challenge.
Correct.
Is that what I'm
Yes.
hearing?
It will be very minor.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments from the committee? And if not, do we have a motion?
I move to accept staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, got moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Now we will move on to discussing the bicycle master plan update.
Yeah, Peter Brown will present this to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Allen, Chair Bosch, members of the committee. Bicycle Master Plan update. We made some progress since we last spoke, and let's just show you some of the work that we have.
Since I came to Santa Barbara, I'm afraid to ride my bicycle because I've just heard, my friends have had too many horror stories of doors opening, cars pulling out into them.
We live off Santa Barbara Street, so driving up Santa Barbara Street, having more of a, maybe just a specific bike lane would be great.
We live on Alameda Padre Serra, and it's really become very dangerous for older people, young people, anybody to walk because the traffic is far too fast. It's not patrolled, and I'm really sorry that, we live in a situation where we don't have people that are considerate of a neighborhood.
Well, I think that Santa Barbara has a good opportunity to expand on public transportation and be like sort of a model for the rest of California, being that in the next 15 or 20 years, things are only going to get more crowded. There's only going to be more and more people in this state.
That's a peek at our video. It's nearly complete. We're looking at the website going live tomorrow. And for Commissioner Burnham, just so that you know, a lot of the music you heard during that time, we were asking there at the end the question, what is the future of bicycling in Santa Barbara? And early on before the interviews, some of the key statistics about cycling growing as a mode of transportation in the city, as well as our accidents and collisions growing. Those are the type of graphics that we were showing for folks so that they got context. So one of the things that we'd like to do is have that framing video be something that just about everyone who participates in the website of the survey takes a look at. And so it's going to be very prominent, as you saw when we reviewed the draft website last month. The first thing in the center of the page is going to be the video. The portion above that, if you recall, is our interactive map, which we've finalized the links for. And below that will be the informational stuff, including the survey, which, by the way, the surveys are live. You can go to SB Survey, and I have the links here. I can show them to you at the end, as well as Ciclismo SB if you want to take it in Spanish. So we have a team, a really good team, actually, one of the strongest teams I've worked with in the last 15 years. The city team is up there. Browning Allen is the charge of that team, along with the rest of us. And the consultant team, we have a strong team. They're the ones who put together this video with our input, and they've been really following our direction well, and the direction of the council, which was to really seek the input of the community. So the project schedule is up here before you now. We're in the launch of the outreach campaign, so that's the phase we're in now. So with the website going live tomorrow, the survey being available, and a couple of key meetings coming up next week and the week after, Planning Commission on April 2nd. The consultant will be here for the April 7th City Council interaction. They're going to lead that presentation and interact with the council. And so those are important dates, and we have scheduled, in fact, I have some flyers to hand out. All of our neighborhood summit dates have been scheduled, including, I think for the first time for the city of Santa Barbara, 2 summits are going to be conducted fully in Spanish. Everyone's welcome. You can come in English, and we'll have a headset there to translate for you if you'd like to participate in those. A little bit... Excuse me. Well, great. Well, bienvenidos todos. No importa si quieren venir y oír todo en español o en inglés. Todos bienvenidos. So this, one of the key catalysts for, a movement in Santa Barbara was the spill of 1969. And so that's kind of one of those moments where I think Santa Barbarans had a special experience, and they said, we should start being cognizant of how we get around and how dependent we are on different energy modes. And that is actually one of the things that gave rise to the 1975 Bicycle Master Plan. I don't think Mr. Dayton was involved in that particular one, but it's a great plan. It's a phenomenal plan, and we still have it accessible if you'd like to take a look at it. The 1998 plan, I do believe Mr. Dayton had a key role in as a project manager for that plan. And that also was an award-winning plan, and it's the basis for a lot of the infrastructure you see now on the ground. In 2003 and in 2008, in order to meet state requirements for funding, we did basically what amounted to readoptions of the 98 plan. And those were fine in terms of keeping our eligibility going. Now in 2015, here it is a good 17 years later, we're doing a wholesale look at the network again. Our current facility map shows the network as it is, and this is also available on our website. And this will be a good reference piece for the Bicycle Master Plan engagement with the public. Some of the recent things we've done, we've increased our bike parking capacity. We've done our targeted enforcement efforts, and those are ongoing. We'll do another one in April. And we do have some nice Class 3 and crosstown projects that have come up in the last 5 to 10 years. The East Side Plan is the East Side Neighborhood Transportation Management Plan is a plan that is guiding some of our outreach effort in that community. That's a related plan. You just heard your last item related to the Pedestrian Master Plan. Education and enforcement, engineering is another one of the 3 E's. Those are going to be key parts of how this plan is successful, along with our ATP projects and our corrals and parking. We have a silver designation from the League of American Cyclists, and one of the questions we're asking, what's next? What's in the future? What do the residents of Santa Barbara really want to achieve? And this kind of gets at some of those questions. Should we be? I'm not going to read all of these to you, but are we looking at improving the existing facilities? The 8 to 80 city for multimodal activity is kind of a national new moniker, really, that speaks to, regardless of your age, if you're an 8-year-old child or an 80-year-old grandfather, we want the city to be a comfortable place for you to move about in, and perhaps not be dependent upon an automobile if you choose not to be. So that's that reference. We've done a pretty extensive safety analysis. We have a high level of collisions, but I also would like to point out that one of the reasons for that is our high level of activity. We have a very active street network, and that's part of the reason why you can see that spine that is State Street. Modoc, also a common way to get across town, and then you'll see a little bit of concentration around Carrillo as well. So we know where the accidents are occurring, we know what type of accidents are occurring, and we're looking to address those through the plan. Some of the less than favorable statistics, the Office of Traffic Safety has us for cities between 60 and 100,000 in the state of California, second worst in the number of pedestrian collisions and fourth in bicycling. So we know that we have some issues to address, and safety is one of those things that we can all probably get behind as a reason to move forward. These layers of community engagement, again, this is a big part of what we're doing, especially during the month of May, but now launching here in late March and early April. This slide just kind of talks to our online engagement, our media engagement, our project documentation. You saw some of that with our intercept surveys when we went out into the public and asked some folks questions about what they thought. The stakeholder roadshows, I talked about that last month. I will be sending out an invitation to all organizations that are interested, and we discussed it as a team. We're going to do that as soon as the council sees this on April 7th. After that, once the council has provided us their input and heard where we are, we're going to launch the stakeholder roadshows. The neighborhood summits, 5, East Side, West Side, Mesa, Uptown, Downtown. I'll give you the schedule and the details for those. This kind of speaks at the different types of community engagement, and because we got the direction from council really to have this a community-driven plan, it's multi-layered and multifaceted. We have a Facebook page. It's Santa Barbara Bicycle Master Plan. You can like it and stay in touch with us there. You can follow the city's Twitter account as well. And here is a list of those 5 neighborhood summits. So on the east side and the west side, on Saturday, May 16th in the morning, on the east side from 10 to 12, we'll be there, as well as on the west side in the afternoon. And we're doing some specific outreach to engage the Spanish-speaking community. And then during the early part of that next week, May 18th, 19th, and 20th, I believe, we will be at those locations in the Uptown, Downtown, and on the Mesa. This is the last slide I have. This just talks about the URL address for our website. It's very easy. It's santabarbaraca.gov, like everything else in the city, and it's /BMP for Bicycle Master Plan. The surveys are live. You can take them tonight when you go home. sbsurvey.org is in English, and ciclismosb.org is in Spanish. Our Facebook page, and again, the schedule. And I'll leave it at that and entertain any questions or comments that the commission may have.
Thank you. Hillary?
The one on the 19th is downtown, right? And the 18th is uptown?
Good catch.
And they're 6 to 8 p.m.?
They are all 6 to 8.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Blackerby, for your attention to detail.
Madam Chair, are you talking about the stakeholder roadshows schedule? Or the
Hillary was clarifying the dates of the neighborhood summits.
Oh, the neighborhood summits. Okay.
Yeah,
what
sorry.
about as a member of the public or as a member of this committee? Is there a way I could attend one of the stakeholder roadshows, depending on where that schedule is? And is that schedule going to be available, like in an email, or could it be?
Yeah. So to be clear, The stakeholder roadshow invitation will go out probably April the 8th, and I can add you to that list, and you can schedule a meeting with us. You're also welcome to attend any of the summits.
Yeah, all the committee members are welcome to attend any one of these meetings. We only encourage you to not sit together and discuss what's being discussed and even provide input, so we don't run into problems with the Brown Act. You know, your time to actually comment on it will be at one of these meetings.
Okay. My other question is there a way for one to take, you said the website's going online tomorrow with the survey, is that correct?
The survey links are live as we speak, and the website will be live tomorrow.
Okay. Is there a way is there an option to take the survey other than online, either, say, by phone or some other way?
The only other option we have right now is hard copy, and via email or as a handout, I can get you or anyone else one of those. I do not know that we have the capacity to do it by telephone.
Okay.
Susan?
I just wondered if you have this for us in paper, or if you could send it to us online or something, because you were going so fast I couldn't quite process and keep up with you and what was on the screen.
Absolutely. I'll post this presentation on the website. I can also get you hard copies or email if you'd like.
I would like an email.
You got it.
If you can send it. Thank you.
Same here.
I will email the entire commission. It's a large file, so you'll likely get a link, and you can download it from there.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Kathleen?
Yes, I was struck in your video. I thought it was really charming, your video. And I was a little surprised by the woman talking about APS and walking. It didn't connect for me. I thought, yeah, that's really important, but this message here was about bicycles, and I wondered why you included that.
Yeah, that Chair Bosch and Commissioner Rodriguez, that is a very good question, and I think I have a good answer. While this is a bicycle master plan, we are trying to be cognizant of multiple modes of transportation, and when we were out doing those intercept surveys, we asked a few questions about the transportation system, and we allowed people to speak to whatever their concerns or suggestions were. So, and to tell you the truth, there was quite a lot of people speaking about bicycling, but there was also people speaking about concerns with parking and traffic congestion, as well as walking and walking safety. And because we are the Transportation Division, this is an opportunity, since we're doing all this input with the community, to really have our ears open to all of those concerns.
Hillary?
Yeah, I really like the video too. I'm just wondering if it might be possible on the websites plural, possibly, because I think the video is on the survey website too, right?
Correct.
To have just a link to maybe a transcript of the video for, because there's text on the different slides and on the and then of what the folks are saying, just so like speech to text could translate that for somebody who couldn't see those things.
Making a note of that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Susan?
I had one other comment on the video. It was really nice. Thank you for such a good job. There was one place where, again, processing, it just went so fast for me, and I know I'm not the only one in the world that that's going to happen for. On this section where you said, it was near the beginning, and it was the questions. What do you want the city to look like? And then there was, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? And if you could just add like 2 or 3 seconds to each of those so that there would be time to really read it and process it before it goes to the next one so fast. I don't know if adding, 10, 12 seconds to the video would be a problem or not, but I wonder.
I don't
Or
think
do you
it will.
just expect people to watch it again or something?
Chair Bush, Commissioner Horn, this is something we actually dealt with at the staff level, and we asked for more time, as you have. So I can revisit that. I think it's reasonable to add another second or two to any of those. It's always a trade-off. When you have a video, you want it to be motivating and captivating and short, but not so short that you don't process it or understand it. And you certainly can pause when you're in control on your own in front of your computer. You can pause and take a look at a graphic. So that's the nice thing about it as well. But I'll definitely take that to heart and take another look at that.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm very excited that this process is getting underway, and it looks like you guys have done a really great job so far, and I'm looking forward to more of the same.
Here.
And
I just want to add, it looks very professional and very thorough, and that's nice. It's great.
Great.
And how do you said it's multi-layered and several times. How do you juggle all that?
I can't really keep up, to be honest, but I'm trying.
okay, thank you. With that, I think we are finished, and we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh. All in favor?
Aye.